So again, thank you for taking the time today to be with us here in Tucker. In looking at your Twitter, it looks like you've kind of hit the ground running here in DeKalb County. Tell us about what these last 3 weeks have been like.
Well, I was incredibly excited, obviously, to become the new superintendent of DeKalb County School District. I really, have been waiting anxiously to meet our staff and our students and our community members. So that has been one of my number one priorities, to really make sure that I'm getting out and I'm getting to know the people that make up this beautiful school district, even in these really, concerning times. So it's an interesting time to become a new superintendent because I have served in a number of leadership roles, and I know that your entry should be one of listening and learning and celebrating. So I'm trying to manage that with the urgency of our time. So making sure that immediately we were thinking about the opening of school and what that would look like for our scholars and staff, ensuring that they were kept safe, as well as, our budget, which is also, very timely. So luckily, I've been around a little bit. Luckily, I've worked under some phenomenal, nationally recognized leaders, and have done some pretty good things myself. So I was ready for this challenge. I'm ready to, lead us, to be, a part and a member of this incredible team, to rise to the challenges of this really unprecedented time, but also to just enjoy getting to know my new home, the beauty and of the diversity of DeKalb, enjoying meeting all of the wonderful people that make up this community. So that's what I've focused on the last 3 weeks. It's only been 3 weeks, in addition to finding a home, a place to live, and making sure that my children, feel excited about this move, and my husband as well. So that's been the last 3 weeks.
Well, I was going to say, lots of times you get a little bit of a grace period. You get to ease into a new job, and that's absolutely not been the case because of the circumstances you mentioned.
Yes.
You came in and had to make what's going to be one of the toughest decisions of your tenure, just right off the bat with the virtual learning. How'd you make that decision? What went into it?
Yes. And hopefully that was it has been characteristic of my leadership style. I like to recognize that, I'm one member of the team. And I also have to ensure that there is a community input. So right after the swearing in, I don't know if you had a chance to see that, but right after that beautiful swearing in ceremony, I was kind of whisked away and had a meeting that same day with the COVID-19 task force, which was made up of a group internally to really look at the data and help to provide a recommendation for where we would go with the opening of school. That information was triangulated with the community survey that was issued, as well as informal feedback from the community. Lots and lots of emails, lots and lots of phone calls, looking at all that information and then pulling it together and considering, where I'm coming from, New York City, which was really the epicenter of this pandemic. And it's almost as if I have a glimpse into the future of what could happen, and wanting to avoid that at all costs for DeKalb County School District. So really the data is what ultimately drove our decision, thinking of the safety of our students and our staff first and foremost, and just knowing that we needed a little bit more time. So those are all the factors that really contributed. I will say that the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive about the decision, even though we recognize that our children want to be back in school and we want them back in school. There's still some community members that are not happy with the decision, but I can sleep at night when I have a chance to. I can sleep at night knowing that the decision we made was really to protect our children and our staff. And we're going to continue to revisit this. That's what I'm so excited about. Our plan is that we've out the gate said every month we're going to continue to revisit the numbers. And when it is safe, when we have the right training and we have the right protocols in place, we will bring everyone back, but not until it is safe for our scholars and our staff.
It was interesting looking at the results of that community survey. The parents and the students, they were relatively close in their opinions, I guess, but the teachers were overwhelmingly, it seemed, concerned about coming back into the classroom. Did that carry some extra weight with you, just that the vast majority of teachers felt that way?
I don't know if I would say extra weight. I thought all of the data points were important. But, naturally, we have to rely on our teachers. They're the ones that are in the classroom with our scholars, and we want to make sure that they're ready in terms of their regular practice and their craft and their pedagogy, but also that they're ready in terms of their social emotional place. So that was definitely a significant data point that went into the consideration. But our scholars were actually on the other side. Our parents were kind of in the middle, and our scholars like, we want to go back to school. So, and that, to me, that's all great news, right? That means our children love school, and they love being with their friends and having access to all their clubs and, sports and their teachers. And so that's really a challenge for us right now, is how do we keep their enthusiasm, their joy for learning, their, optimistic outlook on life. How do we keep all of that going in this remote space? How do we get them excited about the first day of school? And, so we have to deal with this pandemic, but, we have the honor and the privilege of nurturing the next generation of leaders, and we want to keep them inspired. And so that's a challenge for us right now, how we do that in this space.
So let me ask you, I think by this point, all DeKalb County parents have probably Googled you and looked at your resume and know about you professionally. What do people need to know that maybe they don't know, that the resume doesn't tell them about Cheryl Watson-Harris?
No, I appreciate that question. Thanks so much. I think, what I would really love everyone to know is that, one, I have a servant's leadership style. I was raised by a single mother who worked as a nurse. She was the first person in her family to go to college. And she was my adoptive mom, but my mom, and she used to listen to the doctors and everything that she heard them talking about that they were providing for their children. She would work overtime to do that for me. And so I just really learned from her such a very strong work ethic. And the importance and the honor of being of service to other people. So I and my family knows this, and they embrace it and share in it, that, I want to be a servant of DeKalb County School District. I want to be here to work on behalf of the people that have made this their home and that have chosen DeKalb County School District as a choice for their children. So that's one thing, that I'm a servant's leader, and it's my honor to serve other people, and in this case, our beautiful scholars. But also that I'm a mom. I have 3 children. Sometimes I have to turn the camera off because one wants to come in here.
We know about that.
And they'll always be my first priority. But I'm a mom. I've been a football mom now for many years. Even as the first deputy chancellor of New York City, I was, out on the field every weekend, flipping burgers and cheering on the kids. My sons play football. I did play football, and my daughter is a competitive cheerleader. So, also out there traveling around the country with her. She's now graduated, but I love just cheering people on. I love being a part of it. So I hope in me, people find a superintendent that's strong enough to make the tough decisions when we have to do that, to make sure that we're maintaining a level of excellence throughout the district, but also someone who, would love to be part of a book talk or with parents, or, come out to the games when that is safe. But to really be a part of DeKalb County School District.
You step into the DeKalb County School District, and obviously you have to take a look around and kind of take stock of where things are.
Mhm.
How satisfied are you with where your predecessor has left things? How much work do you have to do right off the bat? If we set coronavirus aside and you look at the school district as you normally would in a normal time, how much work do you have to do?
Okay, well, this work of education is a lot of work, right? Always. And I do want to just say for my immediate predecessor, Mrs. Ramona Tyson, what a incredible person. And, we didn't really have as much of a transition period as, one would expect. We had 1 week, but I will tell you that we devoted 1 hour every day. I had my lunch, basically with her. And she was able to share enough information with me that I have been able to hit the ground running. There hasn't been one meeting I've walked into where I didn't have the background information. I didn't know, who was sitting around the table, etc. But with that, looking at student performance, looking at where our schools are with some of our schools with state accountability labels, etc. We do have some inequities, and that's true all over the country. That's not just here in DeKalb, but that's what I see as my work, is to make sure that we're looking at each school community, and not providing the same thing to every school community, but really kind of pulling back the onion to see what is it that each school needs to be able to take it to the next level. And we don't want to see a map where you have, primarily green schools and yellow schools and red schools in terms of performance. In such kind of obvious clusters. And so we have incredible staff working all throughout the county. We want to make sure that we are looking at the right data, that we're adjusting our practices, that we're providing interventions as needed to ensure that all students are, set on their pathway to success. So that is, that I feel is the real work. That's what I like to call the main thing. Let's keep the main thing the main thing. And for me, that's student achievement, and ensuring that all of our scholars are, achieving and accelerating, and are being prepared for what comes next in life for them.
What were some of the things that you all were able to do up in New York that you can bring here and you think might be successful to implement in DeKalb County schools?
Mm-hmm. There are lots of things that I've learned and done and helped to develop with other amazing leaders in both Boston and in New York. And I will say, before I answer that question, I will say there's a lot of things that New York and Boston can learn from the staff here in DeKalb County. We have some amazing leaders who are doing amazing things. One thing that I would definitely, and I'm working with the team already, and a lot of these pieces are already in place, but to this notion of equity and an equitable approach to school improvement, we developed a comprehensive school support strategy. And really that allowed us to have clear metrics to determine the health of a school, whether it be by academics, building blocks for school improvement. That would be more of like your capital enhancements, and then conditions for learning. And that would be more of the social emotional supports, the wraparound services, etc. And so a lot of those pieces exist currently. I do feel a need for us to pull it together a little bit more comprehensively so that we can look at each school and say, okay, this is how we prioritize schools for this type of work, and that these are the progress monitoring checks we put in place so that we're assessing our progress towards our goals in real time. That's definitely something that, that was my legacy work in New York, and definitely something I would love to see us tighten up here, as well as some of our student engagement practices. I believe in student voice. I believe giving children, young adults, our scholars, a seat at the table. And I'm looking for ways to increase the opportunity to engage students in a deep and meaningful way. Because sometimes you give them the mic and they have it all figured out if we just give them a chance. So looking forward to that as well.
How do you know you've been successful? I mean, we talk about graduation rate or we talk about test scores. Are you able to just walk into a school and see the culture and see the environment and say, yes, this is a school on the right track?
Yes, I am able to do that. I'm a very humble person, but that I know. I've spent my entire career in schools and in school districts, and I can usually tell, like within 5 or 10 minutes, if it's a place that I would want my child to attend, and that's usually my standard.
Mhm.
Um, and if it isn't, then we have to kind of have that conversation about why, right? Not to jump to evaluation or assumptions, but just really to figure out why and what that school and the beautiful people who make up that community need in order to reach that standard. But in terms of how I assess if I'm successful and if the district is successful, is really we have to start with our strategic plan. And we have a strategic plan here in DeKalb County School District. Do we want to tweak it just a little bit? Do we want to tighten up in certain places? Absolutely. But we have a plan with clear identified goals. And we have to ensure that the practices and the things that we're doing are working towards us, meeting those goals. And so the progress monitoring, the kind of benchmarking, and regular assessment of our progress towards that goals will let us know if we're successful. Embedded in that are the data points that you mentioned: graduation rates, student attendance, suspensions, as well as overall academic, not only academic achievement, but growth. Right? We want to see, even if you're an A student, we want to make sure that your growth matches the other A students throughout the district. So, and throughout, the state. So I'm very big on that, cycles of continuous improvement. I never want to rest on our laurels. I always want us to be moving forward, and to ensure that we're, monitoring our progress in real time. But
As we're
ultimately, I'm going on, right? I do want to say one other
yeah.
thing, but ultimately, and I've said this from the very beginning, my goal is to ensure that DeKalb County School District is the #1 choice for families. That every family, we have a beautiful portfolio of schools, and that every family in DeKalb can find a school that they say, this is a great match for my family, and this would be my #1 choice. When that happens, I know I'll be successful.
There you go. I was talking with my third grader. I've got a third grader in the DeKalb County schools this morning and telling him that I was going to talk to you. And I said, do you have any questions you would want to ask the superintendent? And he is very interested in technology and technology in the classrooms. I would imagine you, being a longtime educator, have seen a lot of changes when it comes to technology and how it's implemented in the classrooms. Where have you seen it come and where do you see it go in the future?
Mm-hmm. Well, I thank your son for that very important question, and I can't wait to meet him. Um, yes, so I think if I bring this back to kind of our current situation, I believe we have some excellent schools here in DeKalb County that have a STEM and a STEAM focus. Um, and we have many teachers and buildings that I have visited that are just outstanding in terms of access to technology. I think in terms of technology and where we need to go to prepare our children for the jobs of the future, that many educators, this is not just here in DeKalb, but many educators have been reluctant or nervous to kind of enter that space. But this COVID-19 crisis has forced the workforce, the teachers, the educators, students, and families to use technology, instructional technology, in ways that they really hadn't before. So I think that might be one silver lining from this, that education's never going to look the same after this. We're more educated. We have access to new technologies and tools that can make us much more efficient. So that's one thing. In terms of like maker spaces and 3D printers and engineering and all of those things, robotics. These are the things that we want our children to be exposed to, that before have really felt more like an add-on or a privilege. So we have to continue to look for ways to make sure that we're looking at our curriculum and we're preparing students to, even if that's not their area of passion, that they all have access to awareness and these types of opportunities, and just as they do with their, arithmetic and their, reading, because that really is what's going to be required of them in the future. So we'll continue to look at ways to increase access to technology.
Okay, and last question for you. I don't know if you know yet, but here in Tucker, we got a pretty good high school football team. When things get safe enough, will you come out to a Tucker High School football game?
Oh, absolutely. I'll be there. I'll be there with the whole family. I hope I get a shirt.
Bring your maroon and gold. Bring your maroon
Oh,
and gold.
beautiful. I'll be ready. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, Mrs. Watson-Harris, we appreciate the time and good luck to you.
Okay, thank you so much. Hope to be in touch again. Bye-bye.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.